Okay, folks, so we're going to start with this first warm-up here. It says, what is the range? Now, we know that range means what? The y's, okay? And if I'm looking at a graph, then I can very easily tell the range. So, does everybody see the function there? Go ahead, get it in front of you, please, so we can take a look at what the range is. What's the highest power in this function? 2, which means it's called a quadratic, which means it's going to make a U shape. And what are those U shapes called again? Parabolas. Now, you should be able to tell me just from the function, is this thing going to be right side up or upside down? Starts with a negative, which means it's going to be an upside down U because it starts with a negative. This is a right side up U. This is an upside down U. Good? Okay. So, do you have it in front of you? Does this thing have a max or min? It has a max. So everything has to be which way? Greater than it or less than it? So all of the y's are less than or equal to. And how high does it go? So that's negative a half. So looking at your choices here, which of these are telling me all of the y's will be less than or equal to negative 1/2? Which one is it? Why is it D? This one's negative. Yeah. The other one's positive. Okay. Do you feel confident that you could answer that type of question on a state test? Yeah, me too. I am very confident that you should get something like that correct, as long as you get the graph in front of you. Everybody good? Okay, next one. The formula S equals a half AT squared represents the distance S in meters that a free-falling object will fall on a planet or moon in a given time t. Solve the formula A for acceleration due to gravity. Okay, 3 questions for you before we start. What does S stand for? No. In the situation. No. In the situation, S is in meters that a free-falling object will fall. Does everybody see how they describe what S is? Okay, what is the T? Time in seconds, given time in seconds. And what is the A? Acceleration. Okay, now it says here to solve for A. What does it mean to solve for A? What does that mean to do, though? I can't type this in Desmos because I have S's, A's, and T's. That's 3 variables, isn't it? You're not answering my question. What does solving for something mean to do? Okay, and what answer do I want? Solve for. So that A needs to end up all by itself, which means I'm going to isolate it. Okay, so everybody sees where the A is, I hope. What do I need to get rid of? The half and the T to the power of 2. What's happening between all of those things? They're all being multiplied. So what are you going to have to do with all of them? Divide. If they're being multiplied, to solve it, we're going to divide. So folks, let's take care of the half first. Divide by a half for me, please. They will cancel over here. What's the number in front of the S right here? What's the coefficient? 1. So what is 1 divided by a half? It is 2. Yep. So 2, and that has an S on it, doesn't it? Equals AT squared. Now I have to get rid of the T squared. And again, that's being multiplied. So what are you going to do? Divide by T squared. And they cancel over here. And I get 2s over t squared is equal to a. Has the a successfully been isolated? It has. So which of those answers would you choose? Which one? D. Yep. Should be D. You see how it's backwards? Does that matter? No, it does not. Okay. Questions for me on our warm-up? No? Okay, so next we are going to go through 3 word problems, all involving quadratics. Now, if I say quadratics, you know the highest power has to be 2. Does everybody see this chart here? Okay, read the question to yourself, and I'm going to have 2 follow-ups for you. I want to know, what does X stand for, and what does Y stand for? Anybody have an indication of what the X stands for? Number of Olympiads. So the first Olympiad would be a 1, yes? And the 10th Olympiad would be a 10. Now, there were 3 years when we didn't have the Olympics. Can somebody tell me why? What wars? This one is World War what? 1, and these are World War. Probably a good idea not to have the Olympics during a war, right? You got a bunch of people sitting in a stadium, pretty easy target for somebody to pick off. And if we're at war, do we want to send our athletes to the same stadium anyways? No, not happening. So we did not have Olympics in those 3 years, but we've had Olympics ever since then. And you all know they happen every 4 years, yes? Summer Olympics every 4 years and Winter Olympics every 4 years. This question, though, is talking about only Summer Olympics. What event are we doing in this problem? What event? The pole vault. You all know what pole vaulting is? You run like a crazy person with a big stick in your hand, and you shove it into the ground, and you try and lift yourself over a bar. I think it probably would be fun, but I think it would be terrifying. For real? Huh. So, like, she has to have her steps, like, totally counted out, like... Huh. She's... Interesting. I might have to... It's got to be on YouTube, right? I might have to look at that. Interesting. Okay, so I asked you what Y stood for. What X stands for. What does Y stand for? The height in what? In what units? Inches, okay? This is talking about inches. So, I have this table here to fill in. I have my X values, I have my Y values. Now, you can do this with Desmos, because we know how to make a table in Desmos, right? But yesterday I showed you if you can't use Desmos, this one would get plugged in right where those X's are, and then you type it into your calculator and it would spit out a number for you. Well, let's use Desmos because we got it, okay? So type in your quadratic equation, turn it into a table, and you're going to write your heights down. Now, folks, I would like for you to round to the nearest tenth. How many decimal places is a tenth? 1. So that means you're going to look at the second decimal place, and that's going to tell you if you're going to round up or down. So I'm going to give you just a minute or two and fill in this chart for me, please. I just told you in this question what to round to. If I didn't ask you to, then you'd be good to go. How's your parabola look? It has a min or a max? It has a minimum. Now, this is not a question that I asked you on this problem, but what's the vertex? This crazy number right here, right? Something we haven't talked about lately that I'm going to ask you on your homework is the axis of symmetry. What is the axis of symmetry? The line that splits it right down the middle, and it'd go right like this, wouldn't it? So what's the equation of that line? No. X is equal to negative 5.8. Does everybody see this right here? Why is it X equals and not Y equals? It does not touch the y-axis, so it has to be x equals. Okay, well, that's not what this question asked for, but that was just kind of a follow-up. How was everybody with getting their table? How was everybody with plugging in the other x values that you needed? Everybody was okay here. All right, so let's go around the room. Dalton, I'll start back with you. Can you tell me what you got for 1? Okay, I asked for 1 decimal place, so 130 point... Excuse me? No. He said 130.67, didn't he? Which is totally right, but if I want 1 decimal place, this number tells me to round up or down. If it's bigger than 5, we make it round up, so it'll be 130 point... What's the next number higher than that? 7. Does everybody... We remember how to round, yes? Okay, Logan, what'd you get for 2? Okay, so do you have your chart that looks like this? Do you have a parabola that looks like that? So hold on one second. Were you okay with putting this in? Yes? Okay, so hit this gear right here. And then hit the one that looks like a table. And it should create all that for you. Well, he doesn't have to because this is only a 2. Say that again. Okay, so it was 0.37x squared plus 4.3x and then plus 126. How'd we do, sir? We got it? So the one that I wanted you to tell me was when x is 2. So when x is 2, you see that 136.08, right? I want you to round it to one decimal place, so it'll be 136. No, this 8 makes a 0 go up to a 1. So is everybody good with 1? What was it, 136.1? Yes? Okay, what'd you get for 7, Dylan? Even? Everybody okay with this number? Yes? What'd you get for 10? 206 even? Folks, how do we feel about this? Is this okay or no? Yeah? What's up, Savannah? 0.2. Okay, that's an easy fix. That's all right. Tyler, can you tell me what you get for 15? Everybody all right with that number? Yes? And Savannah, what do you have for 26? How's everybody doing? Now remember, this is in inches, right? So if I wanted to turn this into feet, what would we do? How many inches are in a foot? So we divide by 12. Let's take, I don't know, let's take 1900. Can you do me a favor and in your calculator divide that by 12? How many feet? Gentlemen. No, you can't. You cannot divide that by 12 in your head. 136.1 divided by 12. 11.3. So that means whoever this person was that won the pole vault in 1900 pole vaulted 11 foot, a little over 11 foot. This is in 1900. So over 100 years ago. How high is a basketball hoop? 10 foot is a basketball hoop. So this pole vaulter is going a foot over a basketball hoop. You think? Oh, maybe you did. Maybe. Any questions on this? No? Okay, let's move on. Next one says Teddy is building the rectangular deck shown. Write an equation representing the area of the deck y. Well, how do I find the area of a rectangle? That's perimeter of a rectangle. Length times width. What's my length? And what's my width? So, how do I multiply those? Chop it in half and then distribute. So, what's the first half of this? Wonderful. And then the second half? Okay, let's multiply this, please. What is x times x? X squared. What is x times 6? And negative 2 times x? And negative 2 times 6. Now, the x squared would come first. What do I get when I put those two together? And then the constant would be minus 12. Now, do you see how it says find the area of the deck y? So this will be y equals. Now, what's the highest power? So that means it'll be a parabola. which is good because in this question it says, what's the equation of the axis of symmetry? So get this equation in your graph and tell me about the line that would cut it right down the middle. So this is what you're going to type in right here. You know it has to start with x equals because it's vertical, right? Okay. If it's going to cut it right down the middle, it has to go through that point. And what is that point called? No. The most important point, either the max or the min. What is that thing called? Vertex. This thing will go through the vertex. So take a look here. First of all, does this thing have a max or a min? It has a min. Can you tell me the x coordinate of the minimum? -2. So this is the equation of the axis of symmetry. Now, somebody tell me what's wrong with letter C and why we're not going to do it. Yeah, it asked me for a maximum, but it doesn't have a maximum. It has a minimum, doesn't it? Okay, so we're just going to totally forego that. Good? Okay, go ahead. Flip it over to the back. Again, I want you to read the question. And again, I'm going to ask you what x and y are representing. I know. I told you it's going to be quick today. So what's on the roof? Nails, right? On the roof of a shed. And what's happening to those nails? Accidentally dropping them off the roof. Okay, enough. Accidentally dropping them off the roof. What does the x represent? It says right here, x is seconds. What does the y represent? Or excuse me, it's not a y, it's a f of x, isn't it? F of x is the height. Okay, so go ahead and type that in. If it were me, I would change the f of x to what? To y. Okay, so go ahead. Put it in there. -16x squared plus 4. Guys, enough. Okay, so here is the picture of this situation. How we doing? What's the height in, like the units? Let's see here. I don't think it says. We're going to call it feet. That's okay with you. It says, from what height did the nails drop? So here's my picture. If it's on the roof, that's as high as it's ever going to be, right? So how high were they? 14 feet. So that's my answer to letter A. How long does it take the nails to hit the ground? How many? 0.9 seconds. This x-axis right here is like the ground. So it's going to be 0.9 seconds. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, one more. Go ahead and read it. Again, I'm going to ask you what x and y represent. Well, I guess it's not x and y. It's t and h, and you know that the t's would be x's and the h would be y's. So what does t represent? Seconds. And what does the h represent? Height. Wonderful. Okay, so go ahead and get that in front of you. -t plus 5 plus 25. Yep. What's that? See if you have it typed in right. Is it negative x squared plus 5x plus 25? Yep. That's what I think that's what the equation in the problem there says. Okay, good. Okay, let's answer a couple questions. How tall is the pole? Right there? 31.3. It starts at the top of the pole, doesn't it? Okay, and we're just going to call it feet since I didn't give you a unit there. What was it? 31.3 feet. How high will it be after 4 seconds? So we're going to turn it into a table. We're going to put a 4 in here, and it's a 29. Hold on. What are we doing? You don't need paper. How's everybody doing here? Fine? Okay, keep Desmos there. I'm going to give you a worksheet to do. It's going to have 3 of these situations. I'm telling you right now, in number 1, everybody hearing me, number 1? Okay, the X's are seconds. The Y's, it tells you that they are centimeters. I don't want them to be centimeters because you're going to end up with negative numbers, so centimeters won't quite make sense. Don't put a units for a Y. Is everybody okay on that? Yes? All right, I'll get you a worksheet and you can get started.
Say something. No, I don't know.
Why are you about to go crazy? There's not a lot of space in between.
That's what I was
Even if there was, these questions take a lot of time.
I'll give you that other one, which is sentence.
Should I turn these tops?
Sorry. Hey, you want to hear crazy?
You?